slide deck in a couple of days after this webinar has been completed. With that, over to you, Manoj sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Vignesh. So okay. So thanks for this, Vignesh. So thanks everyone for joining this webinar. So today agenda for this webinar is like we need to deep dive with the messaging extensions, and we'll talk the different type of messaging extensions which we can use in Microsoft Teams, and as well as we'll talk about the use cases also and how we can enrich those messaging extensions, because what I found in organization is quite confusing for the organization people's, like where to use messaging extensions. Can we they are just forcefully trying to fit the messaging extension, but there is a purposeful way where we can use messaging extensions in our Teams client area. Okay, so as you can see my screen, so so messaging extensions, it's have a three type. It just provides the three categorizations. So basically two is the important one here, is the search based messaging extension. How we are doing any of the activity search on the web interface and getting the results, like that the search interface. Action based interface means when user want to perform any particular actions, and when any conversation is happening, and to that conversation he or she again want to take a further conversations, any complex conversation is going on multi-threaded conversations need to make, then action-based conversations is fruitful in that scenarios. And then is a last but not least, it's like a link unfurling. As the word itself is suggest, unfurling means unfold it. So whenever we are posting any link as a hyperlink, and we saw in other social medias like LinkedIn and the Facebook, when people are and you and me are posting any of the link, and then it just shows the images also, which will capture from the blog post or from the article or from whatever the source we are posting the link. So those things will come up. So how we can design those type of cards? So that is like the link unfurling, when we post a hyperlink, and how we can design the card with the from the particular link, we can extract those information and query and just post it as an adaptive card. And then finally, once we talk about those type of messaging extension, at the end, it's using as a registered web service. A registered web service is nothing. It's going to talk with the Azure bot, and Azure bot expose their own endpoints, which is going to talk with the Microsoft Teams and just talking with those areas. So going further, so this is just my introduction. So I'm Manoj Mittal, working as a senior technical architect with the Mindtree Limited, Bangalore-based here. And I'm a C# Corner MVP. And you can find all the documentations, what I'm going to talk about in this 1.5 hours. So all the documentation very well maintained in my blog sites, as well as you can find on the C# Corner sites. You can follow me in any of the social medias. I'm quite active. If you have any queries or any suggestions, I'm happy to help you guys. So, okay. So overview for this webinar, we are going to talk about messaging extensions overview. What is messaging extensions basically? And as we talked earlier, the search-based commands, which we will implement, and we'll see the implementations, the use case and the implementation for that. Action-based commands, this is the second one. We'll see that implementations and the use case for that, link for link. And similarly, finally, I will just pick the one custom use case, which will help us to identify and map it with the actual use case, like to searching, if in searching the patients, if we have in a hospitality industry or hospital industries, and there are a lot of patients, somebody need to search within a Teams any particular patients in a critical mode and need to post that particular passenger history within a conversations just by taking their first name, last name, and how they can search and post it. So those areas we'll take a look here. So if we talk about messaging extension, what is messaging extension? So it's basically whatever the conversations is happen over the Teams, it's a way how we can extend our message, okay, and make the conversation more interactive. So it's not a bot, but it's use bot as a web registered services, but it basically comes on top of that. So what conversation is happening? So this is quite interesting and important lines come from the Microsoft. So messaging extensions enable the users to execute the search queries. So what we are doing in web portal, similarly, with the help of messaging extension, we can perform on our search queries, and we can trigger the actions in an external system. As we know, the Microsoft Teams, it's nothing, it's just a platform which expose and give us the freedom. We can host a lot of applications within a Microsoft Team platform. So similarly, we can use the search queries. We can perform our own actions in an external system. And the results, whatever it comes from this particular section, which will come from the custom web services. So here we are going to use a bot framework SDK v4 and, and then embedded those results as a web pages or the rich formatted card. So we have options when we are posting. So we can just use as a embedded web pages where we have a full control to create the designs of the pages. We can use the text space. We can use the rich formatted cards, means we can use adaptive cards. Now, how the message extensions work basically. If you see the teams, in the teams, there are three sections, which we call as the command box. It comes on the top of the teams where if we open the teams on the top sections, we'll find, I will show in a few seconds those one. This is the command box. And then it's a compose message box where in the bottom sections where the user can start their own conversation, and the message more action menu. Whenever we post any of the conversations or any conversation thread is going on, there is a, we can select the more actions and we can start the conversations within the same thread. So that is the third way, the more action menu. So how it's going to implement? It's implemented as a web services, and Microsoft Team communicate with the web services via the bot framework. So whether you are using the C# or a Node.js, bot framework is a common in both the scenarios. Messaging extensions are registered as a bot with a bot framework, and then web services respond with a task module or via the rich formatted cards. So if you see this screen, little blurry here. So this is the commands here. So this sections we can use to customize the team section. And in the bottom section, what is coming here, here we can define our own messaging action. And this is a more menu. Here also we can define our own more section. And we'll just see all the demos for all the three sections. Now the first points we are going to talk about the search command. So search commands, and we will talk about how to implement the search command messaging handlers. So if you see the search commands, basically once you see the top section, where is our command sections here, we can, when we are deploying our own messaging extension in the command box, this is called a two, command box and compose message box. Command box is nothing, it's like this section. When my messaging extension is sit here, and we can type any of the keyword and what web services we have defined in our messaging extension, which what it's going to talk. Like I'm typing here the teams. So I just use the open source NuGet package API, which is exposed open anonymously. I use those API, and when I'm typing, it's just going to the NuGet package APIs and finding the what are the related terms is exist. So that is a one way of the search. And another way of the search is like once we deploy, then we in our manifest file, we need to define where we are going to use this this messaging extension. First is like this command, and next is a compose message box. So here is the three dots is comes there. Here it will show all the messaging extensions what we have. If we have pin, we can pin those messaging extension. It will start coming like that. If it's not, we can select from that, and this will open like that. And we can type it here, the search, any of the search command. It will start taking the data from here, going to the registered web service, returning into the list or the grid result section here. So this is the search command messaging extension. So this is the one custom what I created, and further to that. So search query is just basically sent from the Microsoft Teams when I'm typing here any of the search query to our web services, and web services respond in the form of list or the grid as a result, which is binded to this particular section. So when I'm typing the teams, I'm getting what are the matching keywords from here, and it's coming in a list or the grid structures here. And once after that, once I'm going to select, and then we can add this messaging extension result into the compose box. It will come in our this section, entire cards, what are the cards we have designed in our code base, and that is adaptive cards. So here is a two section is there, title and subtitles, when with the two buttons as well as one image. It comes there and we can post it. It will come to the conversation section. So we can use like that, the search based messaging extension. So when we are going to deploy using the app manifest file, our bot as well as messaging extension. So important sections what we need to consider in our compose section. Anyway, I will show in the code base also. This is just for the reference, so you guys get notice when I'm going to show the code base. So this is the context. We need to define the context where the messaging extensions will work. Is a compose and the command box, as I showcased the two sections, one on the top section, one is the bottom where the conversation starts, and what type of search activity is going to do. It's a query based. So those parameters are important. So now once we define our the Azure bot, in the Azure bot, so there are the Teams activity handler. Teams activity handler is we need to use this particular interface. This interface is having a couple of methods is defined, and this methods is we need to use as per our which type of messaging extensions we are going to use. As you see here, there are two methods I use, and it's just implemented in this section, Team activity handler. That is, one is a query async. When we are going to use a searching any of the particular keywords using the query, so this extensions, this particular methods we need to implement. It's take the parameter from the when we are typing and just call the APIs and return the results into the list or grid structure. And once we select any particular item, and then which we are going to select it, post it to the particular Teams conversation area as an adaptive card. For that is a select item async method is going to use. And you see this method is a find package. This methods basically are used here in the query async. Whenever I'm using any parameters, it's just passing to this one. It's calling our custom or registered web API. It's returning the data to this section. Once our bot activity has done, and that was the only code structures we need to do in the bot activity, and then then after that we need to deploy our the manifest file into the client Teams, which is going to call our registered web service. It's nothing like a bot framework SDK v4. So we have this. We need to create our own colors, and we need to define the icon outlines as well as the manifest file. So all these files go to this folder structures, create as a zip file, give the any name. Once this structure is ready, we can go to the our teams.microsoft.com and the App Studio sections. And then App Studio sections go to the import existing app, because our app is already ready. Now we need to register it into the Teams. Once we selected this one manifest file, and it comes like that in our sections, and just double click it and then test and distribute. It's ready to deploy. So let's go to the demo to the first one for the search bot itself. Okay, so this is the search bot. So what I created for creating this one, so I just created a blank bot from the portal.azure.com. So it's similar sections here. So I just moved to the portal.azure.com. You can go to the create resources, and the create resources, AI machine learning web app bot. So once you select, you need to fill all the relevant information here. What is the bot handle, subscriptions, resource group, location. So what's the minimal information? So you can just fill it and just click on create. No other further changes is required. Template, it should be fine. The EcoBot C#. We are going to change and inherit the Teams activity handler here. So once it's done, so then you can go to the bot and download your publishing profile. Okay, and then from the Visual Studio, we can create our own bot. That is the EcoBot. It will give us something similar like that only. The same structures will come out. Only these folders will not be there. Teams app manifest file. So that will create the later point of time. The rest of the structures will be same and no changes required. Let's go to the first files, which is our the dialogues one. And here we need to remove all the codes, what code exists here, and we need to add our own structures, because now we are going to change it here with a team activity handler, and we need to implement the method which is invoked from here. So for example, this is like a search base, so we need to use the query async. So if you check this one, so this is quite important actually. Once you open these sections, you can see there are bunch of methods as defined by Microsoft, and it says which methods we can use for what purpose. So we are using the query async method, selected item sync, those methods what we are using based on the our messaging extensions requirement, we can just use those methods. So here I used the query async method. So this query async method is having a return type is a messaging extension response. So we need to create our card in this format, which is going to return to the teams. And basically, once it's just taking the whatever the keywords we are typing, it's taking as a query parameter and taking as a text. And once it's taking as a text and going to the find packages. So I'll show this method. So this method, it's nothing. It's like HTTP client we use and getting the data from this URL. And this is an open URL. Whatever the parameters we are going to type it here, it will return the data into JSON structures. And these are the few properties which will come out from here, ID versions, which we are going to use. So we can just map it our own list structures or the grid structures from this section. So as we got the packages, and then here we are going to create as a list structures, which is going to, once we are going to deploy and we are going to search, and it will list it down all the values which is coming from this packages. Okay, so once it's come down the next methods, when we are going to select when post it the methods for the selection purpose, we have select item async. What are the items we are going to select? And here we can define our adaptive card, which is going to post into the compose message and from that to the conversation area. So once we select particular item, we need to define our own card. So that depend on us what type of cards we are going to post. That is a rich formatted card. Basically, it's a thumb cards we use. Here is the titles we are going to define. This is a package ID and the versions, and the subtitle as a description. And then there is a two buttons is there. So one button is the title is a NuGet package and the project. And similarly the icon URL. So once this is ready and then post it to the Teams area. So let me deploy this solution and show how it's work basically. So I'll just right click publish. So once we create a bot, so I just downloaded the profile from the bot itself. So I'll just select that particular profile and click on the publish. So yeah, set it publish. And another important sections, we need to create one folder. So it's not required, it's really required under the bot. So you can create this folder structure anywhere outside this sections also. And this we need to zip it and post it to the Teams client area. So if you see what that section it is, so the manifest file, so important sections what we are talking. So this, what is the context of this particular messaging extensions? It's a compose or the command box. Here we are going to define and its type of the query. So take these sections. I will, yeah, it's bot is deployed, I think. Yep, it succeed. I'll go to the this section. I'll just delete already one. Just take it and send to the just manifest. I'll go to the Teams. Three dots, App Studio. Here we have manifest editor. So the sections import from existing app. If you have already, so let me delete it. What I have, I will deploy it again. Import from existing app. Let me take the URL. So here, just select the manifest file. So it will open. So here we can check what the details, the bot ID, whatever we have mentioned. If it's correct, all the endpoints, we can go to the messaging extensions. So there we can define this is the bot API messaging extensions and the bot ID. All those things we can define and just go to the test and distribute. Click on install. Yeah, just click on add. So for that, I will go to the bot and show the bot sections also. What is important? My resource group. I'm using this bot. Okay, once we create the bot, so this sections will comes like that. Here we will go to the all app service and setting. Here we can get our own publish profiles. We can download this publish profile while publishing the bot. So that .publish files I use the same. We can use it from here. And another section in configuration sections, if you go, you will get your bot app ID and the bot secret. So this is your Microsoft app ID is nothing like a bot ID. So you can go click it here, take it, grab this ID, and this IDs we are going to use in the multiple sections. So it's going to use here is a app ID 8CD, same one 8CD, and another section in the compose extensions also we need to use. So these are the two areas where we need to add the bot ID. So now go back to the teams. Let me refresh it. Yeah, so you can go to any of the particular channels. I just go to the journal channel. So here you will click on the three dot. So the search extensions is my messaging extension thing. You will find here. If you have a lots more, you can define it from here. And if it's you want like it should come up here, you just click it here and pin it. It will start appearing the sections here. Or I'll just click on the search extension and I just type the teams. So once I type whatever the APIs we have defined in the bot, it will just start taking the data from this section. So we can select any of the particular links. So you see, this is the titles what we have defined and the descriptions, and with the two buttons, the NuGet package and the project, it start coming here as well as the icon. It comes into the compose section. We'll just post it here. So this is the one way like of the message search based messaging extension. If we need to search anything and we need to post into the conversations, so we can use this particular way. And second section, this is also here also we can use the same. So once we are going to type, so instead of using the outer box, we can define our own customs. If I just select anything, so it will just take the titles and the subjects and the two buttons and image, whatever is there. And we can copy paste and do the conversations pasted here in the conversation box. This is the another way. Okay. So moving to the next messaging extensions. Hope it was clear and it was quite pretty simple and to use case for that. So now coming to the next one. So this is the action command, and we will talk about the implement the actions command messaging handlers. So basically the actions scenarios, it's when we need to take the data from external system and need to include in our regular conversation or in our the same conversation thread. So basically for that purpose, it's used the action-based messaging extensions. And as I said, like if we have a complex task and which need a multiple steps and we need to share the results and somebody ask any question and we need to share any particular results and multiple threaded, which we need to talk with the outside the particular team or outside the particular text, we need to post the data from external sources or external system. So for that purpose, it's quite helpful to use the action-based messaging extensions. So how it's work basically, once we are going to deploy messaging extensions, allow us to collect the information using the modal pop-up dialog box. So basically, we'll see here is the messaging extensions when we are getting the same window. This is my messaging extensions. It's coming here. Once I click it here, it will pop up. The model dialog will come up here and which have some informations what we need to fill it here to process their information and what are the informations we are going to fill it here, and it's going back to the Teams channel conversation area. So these cards, what I showcase here, it's again come into the three flavors. So we can use the web-based task module. So there we have a full controls. We can design the UI. Second is a static one where we can define our manifest file. So this one I took as an example as a static one. I defined the title, subtitle, and text. We can define anything as a static. So we don't have much control on this one because we have defined as a static in the manifest file, and it's super easy to implement and start using. And once we click on submit, it will start posted into our conversation areas. So this is the one way. So how it's work when we this pop-up message will come, it's invoke the JSON payload and call the registered the web services API. So this also called the bot framework API. And once the bot frame web services respond, the task module will implement it with a. So this is coming with a web interface or like with the adaptive cards. It's going to come up here. Another section is for the action-based messaging extension. When any conversation is happening and with to this particular conversations in this particular thread, we need to respond it back. So here we can select these three dots, and the more action menu will appear. In the more action menu, our custom messaging extension section will also appear here. So once we select the share messages that we have defined our custom messaging action, against the popup will appear. Here we can define our own use case and just click on submit, and then messages will post it with respect to this conversation. It's a threaded message will come up here. So this is another way of the action-based messaging extensions. So when we are doing the register the action-based messaging extensions in the manifest file, so what is important here, we need to take care. We have a type is a action and context is a compose. And then second is like in the share messages, as we going to use a two type of in action based messaging extension, we have a two type. One is the message extensions coming with a three dot on the bottom, and another is a more action menu. So this is from the more action menu we are defining. So context is a message here. So how will the actions commands prompt in the action-based messaging commands, and how it's come to know? Because once the conversation is started, and then we can respond via the text without using the more action menu. So there are two ways of responding. So that's why they decide how the message will be sent back to the users. We can insert the message in the compose message area, and we can directly respond to the conversations. So when we are saying when we are doing the directly respond to the conversation, so we need to register our API as a bot framework, not as a messaging extension. So we can invoke as a @bot name, and we can start directly respond to the conversation also instead of we are using a more action menu command. So this is the implementations way. In the similar way, similar fashions like how the previous example I showcased, the messaging extensions what I have created. In this section, I use as a submit action async. So once, because it's pop-up dialog box, in the dialog box, once we are going to submit, so these are the commands some we have defined into the app manifest file. So what this particular first one is like, we are creating a card, and then second one is a sharing a message. So once we are invoking creating a card at the initial one, so create a card and define our own extent, the business logic here. So that is having the two text boxes or three text boxes and one button. On the buttons, we need to take it data into the JSON payload via the registered web service and post it back to the conversations area. Similarly for the share command messages. So this is again the similar way of the implementation of this type of messaging extensions. Go to the teams.microsoft.com, go to the app studios, and go to the import from existing app, this section, and select our manifest zip file, what we have created in combination of all those three, and just deploy it. It will start appearing. Just double click and just test and distribute. It will start. It's ready to use that section. Let me showcase that use case also. Yeah, so this is again the same. I just created a separate bot, SDK v4 bot, and the eco bot. As such, no specific template is used for that. What's the basic template used at one? And here is the similar structures will come here. Only this Teams app manifest file, which we can create outside the bot also. It's no more related to the bot. It's more related to the Teams. Just for the consolidations area, I put it at folder structure here. Now the important section is the eco bot section. Here we'll remove all the existing codes and we'll use our own Teams activity handler, which Teams is providing. And then here we are going to implement the method as a submit action async. And here it's whenever we are going to use this one, it asks for it's just prompt for a dialog. It's prompt for a pop-up dialog where we are going to define the command actions ID. And those IDs where it's matched, it's whether it's a create cards or a share message. Based on the create cards, we are going to define our own sections. As you saw in the previous screenshots, we have three sections is there. Define the again adaptive cards. That is nothing like a hero cards. It's having the one is the titles, subtitles, and text boxes, and just put it as an attachment and post it with a to this particular section. The response is again the same messaging extensions results from this sections also. And similarly, this sections is also that one. It's going to thread to the same conversation. We can define our own business logic when we are going to create a card, and for that particular the show message command what we use, it's also come under the submit actions async. So let me deploy this section and showcase how it's work also. So before, okay, let me go there. I'll just use the same publishing profile and same bot. So I use the same publishing profile to the same bot I will deploy. So it will overwrite my previous code structure. So let it publish here. So in the meantime, I'll open my manifest.json file. So this file is again, it's an important one. Here we are going to define the bot ID. Whatever the bot is a Microsoft app ID of the particular bot. And here also we need to define the same section. We can define also the manifest versions, version numbers, package file name, all those things, sections, we can define it here. And now the important section is what context it is. It is a compose context. And here we are defining our own parameter. It's a static one. So we can change it all these sections. Here we are saying we are going to define three parameters. One is the titles, one is the subtitles, and another is just a text area. So these are the three text boxes in the pop-up module. It will come up at the initial stage. And when we are using the sharing message and what parameters we need to define. So it's again, we can define all these sections and just start working accordingly. So here is the important section is in a context, we need to define it's going to work on the messages. So that comes under the all action menus. So yeah, it's deployed. Let me go to this section, open folder structures, not this one, team manifest. So here, let me delete, it's already created. Just go and create this one, manifest file. Okay. So now go to the teams.microsoft.com here in this section, App Studio, manifest editor. So in manifest editors, as I already have, let me remove, this one, go back, manifest editor, select, delete. Yep, it's gone. So import from existing one. Let me take this path. This is messaging action manifest file. It's just selected. It start appearing. So we can verify all the informations what we have provided here. Just go to the messaging extensions. So these are the parameters, what parameters we have provided. It start appearing here. There is a one create card. In the create card, we provided the three sections, one a title, subtitle, and a text has a text boxes. It's a static card, which is called a static one. And other parameters, share messages, we just include images. There is nothing like one pop-up will appear where it will just shows whether we need to include the image or not. So this section. So just go back here, test and distribute and install it. Add. Let me refresh. And go back to the teams. For example, journal section. So here, if I select now my new one is came up here, the messaging action messaging extensions. Once I select here, it's a pop-up dialog will come. So what the static sections we have defined. So while static, we don't have any control on that, and it's just an easy we need to define in manifest file. We can change any time and start using those sections. So it's like I can define anything COVID-19 need more detail. COVID-19. Oh, yeah, and just click on submit. So once we click on submit, so what are the card we have defined here, the title, subtitles, and the description, it will start appearing in our compose message section. If you need to type anything here, need to go something, just type it this section. So this conversations, like we have created a new card and we need to post it in the particular channel to the entire set of audience. So any such new informations, we can create those card and post it here. And the second section here. So if you go to the more actions, we can see here our new action came here. It's a share message. So here also we can define our own logic as we select this conversation. In this conversation, it will thread it the new message, include images in the hero card or not. I'll just select. So as such, no business logic implemented, just showing this is going to the new thread. It's something like that. So we can define our own business logic. If we need any complex conversation is going on and need to thread get the data from external system, so we can use the action-based messaging extension and we can take advantage of this particular sections. Okay. So last one. So this is also quite interesting. So we'll say the unfurling link basically. So that's the what are the link we are going to type into the our compose message box. So we want to showcase that link should extract some information from or just take the information from the third party our APIs and just post it there or some other menu instead of just posting the simple link. So how we can design those one, how we can implement. So if you see here, messaging extensions link unfurling invoke the activity when the hyperlink from the defined domain. So the interesting thing is there, it's not like that we can define any of the link in this particular section. So we need to define the domain in our manifest file as we are using the Wikipedia. We are using the bot framework. We are using the Microsoft.com. We are posting that particular link. So it will whitelist when we are posting those links and our card will, we can design the cards like how it's coming in such a manner. So so basically link unfurling help to respond the full hyperlink with a rich formatted card as well as additional information. It's similar like the search results. When we are typing the search any query and we are getting the more results, we are getting additional information. It's something like that. So that is again depend up to us how we need to design the card, what business logic. But that is also the possibility exists based on the hyperlink we can design our own cards. So when we are going to register the unfurling messaging extension, so what's important section is here context we need to define as a command box, and this is the domains where we are going to define under the message handler sections. We need to define type as a link and what are the domains we are going to whitelist. So this is the domain botframework.com as well as the wikipedia.org. So we can define the a number of domains here, even which will be whitelisted, whatever the URLs. If we are not come under that one, then our logic will not work. So for this also, it's a similar board structures I have created and inherit the team activity handler. And here is a query async. So once the query async, whatever the methods results we are getting here, again, we are designing our own cards. So what should be respond here? So it's like a thumbnail cards. We need to define, we need to post it as a URL and we need to post it as a some more link. So those cards we can define here. So for deployment of this particular bot, which is has a web service, is the same one. So after that, we need to deploy the manifest file. The manifest file again go to the teams.microsoft.com and go to the App Studio, import from existing app, and just deploy your the manifest zip file, which is having a 3 files. And then these sections will appear. Go to this sections, cross-check all the details, and then test and distribute and deploy it. So let's see that demo also for that. So this is the link unfurling. So here is the sections what I was talking here. So once we type anything, the query async, and we are going to design the particular card. So it's just a hard coded I have defined. We can define based on the query parameter. What are the query parameters we are getting? So what type of card we need to define and what images we need to add. So and what descriptions we need to add, those type of descriptions we can edit in this particular section. So here you see, if you see the search queries, so what the title, text, and we have a lot more options here based on the our hyperlink, what type of what type of my message should look like. We can define those type of rich cards, rich formatted cards, and just throw it back to the conversations. So let's deploy this section also. I will deploy to the same bot. I will overwrite the existing one. So this is my publish profile for the existing bot. I click on publish. So let it publish. In the meantime, I'll go to the manifest file. Similarly, this is the only folders I added here, the Teams app manifest file. In this manifest file, again, we have important section is the bot ID, package name, and the version number. And then finally coming to the compose extension. In the compose extensions, once we come up here, So we need to define what type of context we are going to use. Context is very important in all the section and messaging handlers, and what type of section it is. It's a query. When we are typing any of the messaging, we can use as a, it's work like a search. Let's take those parameters as a query, and we can define here our message handlers, which is a domain, is a whitelist. If I type something outside of this domain, it will not work as is whatever I'm custom logic has written. So it's done. Let me go back to this sections and make it zip file. Let me delete it and take it again back and to zip. Just take this structure. Go to the team sections, App Studio, manifest editor, and I will delete the old one, what I'm having as of now here. Yep, I import from existing app, manifest file. So we can check all our app details and just go to the messaging extensions. So whatever we have defined, it came here, the registered domain, and just go test and distribute. So install it. So here, if you see as a hard-coded section in this one, what I have defined, I just defined this particular URL. I will take the one particular link and just show how it's work. I'll go to the teams and I'll take any of the URL if it's there. For example, this only I will take it. Okay, I'll just post this URL here. So once I posted this URL, so yep. So take the custom image here. So what is custom image? If I remove my from the whitelist the Wikipedia, then image will come something different. But Microsoft Teams is also having something. It will just just show those cards. But here we have a freedom. We can design those cards in our way, whatever we require. So let me go back to the App Studio, and here in manifest file, in the particular sections, that is the link, unfurling, edit, and remove this sections what I defined in messaging extensions. So in messaging extension, Wikipedia is there. Let me delete it, and yep, I deleted the section. I'll go back and again deploy this one. I'll go back to the teams. So if I just type it this section as this, I think I need to refresh it. Okay, let me just type it. Start now. See, now it's not taking what are the custom image I have defined here. It's giving their own sections for adaptive card, what Microsoft Team is having out of box. So, but we have a freedom using the link unfurling. We can design our own cards. So I have just hard coded this image in my code base. If you see here, so this is the particular that image I just took it and posted here. If I go and just take it out, this one. Yeah, that's why this image came there. Okay. So this is the till the link unfurling. Now the last part, as we'll talk about one of the use case to find the search patient. For that, let me deploy the solution first for that, and we'll see how this works basically. I'll just publish. So this is again the bot, same bot. I just wrote the code in this section. I'll publish it this one. Okay, so how it's going to work? So I have a SharePoint list where I have defined all the passenger patients details. Basically, so the one hospital is maintaining their own details. It can be any of the data source. We just need a REST endpoint. So use as a SharePoint and define our own custom web API, which is giving me the data of all those particular patients. So the what's the patient name, patient age, genders, contact number, primary address, previous medical history, any photograph. So those things I have defined here, and I just use our own custom API. And if this custom API I use any of the name, like we have a Ellen is there. If I just type Ellen. So once I will search in our messaging extensions, those patient's name, and it will give me the data into the JSON structure. So based on this JSON structure, I will bind and display into the messaging extensions as a list or the grid structures, and we can select those one and post it into the team conversation area. And we can get using the deep linking more detail of the patients from where that patients came. And again, we need to define all these things and designs accordingly. So that is deployed. If it's deployed, I'll showcase. Okay, so that is deployed. I'll go to the sections. Manifest file. I'll go to the team section. So here, App Studio. Okay, so let me delete all. Actually, I don't need all these now. Yep. I'll select on the import on existing app. I will take this folder structures, search API. So this is the manifest. So here we can check all the informations as well as in the manifest file, whatever we need, and just go to the test and distribute, install. So once you click on add, link unfurling. Okay. So here, this name is also the search extensions. I will just type Berry. So these are the use cases, like when anybody is just the senior peoples in the hospitals and or in the nurses who is having a Teams app, and they are visiting the patients, and they find like this particular patient is not well and need immediate action. And instead of calling and just doing, they will just take the patient's name with a search with the first name, last names, or any of the informations we can define. They can just quickly go to the teams and just type those names and then select the person, identify, okay, this Barry, so which Barry it is. Okay, this Barry, this person is this one. So yeah, correct. So we'll just post it here and just send a message, need attentions. Okay, something we can type it here and just post it to this particular area. So immediately the notification will goes to the all the people who are the part of this team, and they can just respond to that section. And they will, if somebody want to say, so this card is again in our control. We are designing this card, so what we need a image, first names, the patient's name, age, gender, contact number, all these informations we can define. More informations point of view. Once I click to the more informations, basically we can, I just created one tab which is having a SPFX control. And this is doing the deep linking here. Once I click on the particular post, and in a deep linking, we can define this particular area from what's the passenger medical past history. So this passengers, when he was traveling from Bangalore to Delhi, this particular flight, this particular date, and it came, this passengers came from these sections we got from the airport, and what's the age and what's the previous medical history. Those informations, any of the person who is going to treat, he or she can get, and all informations we can update in the system, can update into the list if anybody wants to update. Okay. For this, so if you see the code structures also, how it's work. So similar structure, if you see the APIs here also, I saw I use the same the query async, and I'm using what are the queries I am just typing here. So getting those particular keywords and passing to the particular function. So it's doing nothing, it's calling my APIs. So go to the definition. So this is the custom API which I hosted into the Azure, and talking in the backend as a SharePoint Online. We can use any of the data source and return the results and create our own JSON structure. And once it's type it as a JSON structure, So we are just taking and showing what the informations it need to show and the list structures here. We are going to show as a profile pics. We are going to show as a passenger names. So these couple of informations, whatever we are going to show, we just bind it as a list. And once we select the particular passengers, what type of card we need to display. So this is the basically adaptive cards where we are showing what informations we need to showcase here. We are just showing the patient's name, patient's age, gender. So that's an entire tabular structures, row and column structures we can create, and accordingly we can put the particular cards, what type of data type it is, and just post it that one. And there is a one button we are showing the more details. So this buttons is nothing. It's used for the deep linking. So if you see the deep linking meaning is like whenever any operations we are doing within a team, so it's allow the user don't go out of the out of the team context. We should be in a team context, and we should navigate within a teams from one tabs to another, or from one teams to another teams. So that's why it's a deep linking. So one tab is created and SPFX control is hosted there, and this is the tab URL, and we are passing those parameters. So as the ID, item ID, and based on item ID, the SPFX control is rendering the data. Yep. So this is the more about messaging extension. And the last sections, all these, whatever I demonstrated, everything is documented on my blog post. So you can go there and in a stepwise, all the details I have mentioned, you can just go and check the create-based messaging extensions. All steps are there, how we are going to create the search-based messaging extension, why we need to use, what the prerequisites, creating the bot, and all those sections are there, even the code base, what I explained, when need to use, what functions we need to use, and as well as entire code base also I posted into the GitHub. If you go to the GitHub section, you can download this entire code base, and you can start using in your section. Similarly, for the other sections also, the action-based messaging extension, this is the second one, is also posted with a full complete details. You can go through these articles, get more insights, how to use and what the code base for this structure. So in the last I have posted, that is same also on the GitHub is there. Yeah, messaging extension action messages. Here you can go and get all that. You can download the code and use that as is those sections. Similarly, the link unfurling as the last section, that is also posted here. So you can take it out, those URLs, why we need to use, and all the previous articles details, you will get it down here. Similarly, this code is also exist in this particular GitHub locations. So all the details, it's very well documented. You guys can go through and just take a look, download the code, and just try it out at your end. Yep. So I think that's all from my side for this webinar. Vignesh, it's over to you.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much for the detailed session, Manoj sir. So folks, if at all you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and you can start asking the questions. Thank you.